Welcome to the Week 17 preview from the Sharp Football Show. You're in the right spot. If you want to get some best bets for the NFL this weekend, some of your favorite prop looks as well, you are in the right spot. Sharp Football Analysis over on YouTube. If you're streaming us over on X and you want to participate in the chat, head on over to YouTube right now. You can contribute just like the rest of the guys are going to be contributing here. And absolutely, as Exile says, like and subscribe while you are over there at the Sharp Football Analysis YouTube channel. We're building it up. Glad to see everybody here. Jimmy Football, we had a great holiday here. I don't know about you guys. It wasn't too hectic. Didn't travel, so that's always a plus. And really enjoyed the time with family. Going to be continuing that celebration throughout the next several days as we head into the new year, as I hope all of you guys are watching the games, hanging out with family, enjoying some of the crisp outdoor weather, etc. But we're here to talk some football. And if you were around last night, you saw an unfortunate incident on your television. It maybe took up about 3 hours of your life. It was utterly disgusting. We're going to be breaking down the Chicago Bears performance last night, Caleb Williams' performance last night, and talk a lot about what we saw last night in the Chicago Bears Seattle Seahawks game. The Seattle Seahawks won 6-3. We'll also be discussing the upcoming NFL slate. We're going to be hitting on some games Saturday and some games on Sunday. There's a big slate on deck, obviously. A lot of games on Saturday, and then we've got the Sunday games as well, Monday Night Football, of course, to conclude the week. We do not have, from a scheduling perspective, we do not have Ryan McChrystal on the show today. We're going to be breaking down best bets with Pam Maldonado from an NFL perspective, and then we're going to be diving into some of the ref angles with our ref analyst, Joe Gibbs. So we're still going to be hitting those two up, but we are not going to be getting into some of the best bets from Ryan McChrystal. Instead, we are going to be sprinkling in some of Ryan McChrystal's analysis on Tuesday, on our Tuesday noon show that we do live every Tuesday and Friday. If you don't know already, now you do. On YouTube and on X, we go live, and we're going to be sprinkling in his analysis because those games, the big playoff games for the college football season, those are Tuesday and Wednesday of this upcoming week. So we're going to be hitting some of his analysis on Tuesday. So with that being said, that's kind of what is on the docket right now. Let me hit a couple of your comments, and then we're going to be getting into some of the show. UNC Sucks says, let's not talk about last night's poop fest. No, if you don't want to hear about my rant on the Chicago Bears, you might as well just turn this off right now, because we're going to be talking about this and we're going to be breaking it down, because I am seeing far too many people on X talking about how this is Caleb Williams' fault, blaming Caleb Williams. I have my gripes with some of the things I've seen from Caleb Williams as well. No rookie quarterback would have success with what he's being put through with the Chicago Bears. So we're going to be talking about that momentarily. And it's not just about the rest of the talent that he's surrounded with. I agree. There's issues with the offensive line. There's issues with the want to of some of his receivers. The issues stem far beyond that. We're going to be talking about that momentarily. Happy holidays as well. To the rest of you guys. Brett says, if Santa Claus had the Bears clock management, no one would ever get presents. I agree with you, Brett. Just a disaster. So let's dive into it. Let's start our first topic. All right, what we're going to do as we break down the Chicago Bears is I am seeing far too many people on X, both last night and today, discuss the fact that this is Caleb Williams' problem. This is Caleb Williams' fault. Caleb Williams is terrible. Caleb Williams is a bust. He's not cut out to be an NFL quarterback. I might have some language in here. If you're sensitive to that, I'm sorry. I just cannot stand getting my blood boiling here talking about the Chicago Bears. So what I did is I took the last, I think, about 3 minutes of the game last night, and we're going to play that here momentarily, and I'm going to talk through this whole thing. When we get to the end of this, you will see at least 8, if not 10 instances of utter bullshit that no quarterback should ever have to deal with. You're going to see one of the most ridiculous managements of we've seen isolated incidences with the Chicago Bears that got Matt Eberflus fired in the past, where there's a one-off thing related to problems for the Chicago Bears. This is rampant, and this is throughout the entirety of the play calling. This is organizationally, they don't know what the fuck they're doing. This is their coaching staff. This is their play calling. This is Thomas Brown, who is way out of his depth. I have no idea why anybody who saw what he did with Bryce Young in the 2023 football season, because he was elevated to call plays for 3 weeks when everybody was yelling about how bad Frank Reich was with the Carolina Panthers. They elevated Thomas Brown to call plays for a few weeks, and he was so bad that they had to bench him from calling plays. And all of a sudden, now he's the play caller for a rookie number 1 overall pick after what he did with Bryce Young last year. I think people need to go back and watch what he did last year. People who were applauding him being elevated after Shane Waldron, I don't think those people watched closely enough with what he did. He might come from a decent tree. He has no idea what he's doing, especially with running an offense. So let's just play it, and I might throw a few pauses in here. My producer's going to pick up on it. Let's walk through this game. Go ahead and bring up the tape. Okay, let's pause it right here and set the stage. All right, we are at 3 minutes and 37 seconds left in the game. The Chicago Bears have a 2nd and 2, and they are at, I think it's like their own 40-yard line. All right, what are we playing for here? In an ideal world, we want to matriculate the ball down the field and score a game-winning touchdown, a walk-off game-winning touchdown. Now, as you can see, the Chicago Bears have only 3 points. That means they have not been able to matriculate the ball down the field. It might be wishful thinking to think that the Chicago Bears are going to go all the way down, get to the goal line, and score a touchdown with no time left on the clock, right? So at the bare minimum, no pun intended, they got to get into field goal range. Our sole goal with this next 3:37 is at least get into field goal range. If we can get a touchdown to win the game, that's gravy. We want to get the touchdown to win the game. But at a minimum, we need to get into field goal range, right? We have all 3 of our timeouts left, plus the 2-minute warning, and we're trying to get into field goal range. So they throw this screen pass over here to DJ Moore. Let's play it. Sorry, that's not DJ Moore, that's Keenan Allen. I want you to pay close attention to one of the overriding issues that happens here with the last 3 minutes and 30 seconds, with the team having no sense of urgency or getting to the line of scrimmage or getting these play calls in. This team is huddling before a 3rd and 2. Thomas Brown just gets his play call in. He has not coached up Caleb Williams in terms of the expeditious manner that they need to get to the line of scrimmage and get this play call off. Can you get the comments off here? Because we can't see the clock. Okay, so the clock is running down. They're within 5 seconds on the play clock, and they still have not snapped the ball. They're motioning. They snapped the ball with 1 second left on the play clock. They have burned the entire 40 seconds of the play clock getting this singular play call in. There was nothing that the Seahawks were doing from a motion perspective that would slow them down or concern them. So Caleb Williams gets tackled short of the line of scrimmage. 40 seconds on the play clock. Now the play clock winds 37, 36, 35. It's obviously slightly short. Anybody can see that. They place it slightly short. You need to get your play call in for a short yardage situation here. The Bears are slowly huddling. Once again, there is no urgency from a let's go no huddle. Let's try to get this play call in super quickly. So it's 4th and inches. 12 seconds left on the play clock. 10 seconds. 8 seconds. Finally, you know who calls a timeout? The Seattle Seahawks call the timeout. The Bears have the Seattle Seahawks are just like, I don't know what these guys are doing. Let's wait till the play clock runs all the way down. They are burning, the Chicago Bears have burned all this extra time that they could have relaxed once they got into field goal range. Now the Chicago Bears are like in desperation mode. There's almost just 2 minutes left, and they need to get into field goal range. So The clock is winding down. Seattle has used their timeout. The other thing that happens when you snap the ball with just seconds left on the play clock is the defense knows you have to snap it then. So they can play this thing a lot differently than if you were snapping with 12 or 15 seconds left where they don't know when the snap's coming. If you are getting ready to snap the ball with seconds left, they know when it's coming. So here you have a false start on the Chicago Bears. Backs it up to a 4th and 5. They take their offense off the field and they line up like they're going to punt the football. Do you really think you're getting the football back here? In any better situation than you have it right now, you have to go for this on 4th and 5. So now they end up burning a timeout that they could have used to help them when they had, even if it's a dead ball situation, worst case scenario, you've got the ball, it's 4th and 10, you can call a timeout and set up a good play if you have an extra one left. But burning this timeout now on this side of the 2-minute warning is absurd. This is probably like the third most absurd thing that we have seen here is them burning this timeout just on this side of the 2-minute warning. Obviously, the fans can't deal with it. So now the clock's winding again. The play clock's winding again. So they got a 4th and 5. The rush is on him, and Caleb Williams has to do something magical. He completes this ball to DJ Moore, and all of a sudden, with 2:06 left, that switched the whole thought process here. Now the Bears have some life again. Thanks to a brilliant pass by Caleb Williams and a great catch by DJ Moore with the rush all over him. This is a terrible play call, but at any rate, they're able to get DJ Moore and get the first down. This is Caleb Williams doing what Caleb Williams did in college and on very few occasions has done in the NFL that makes you realize why they drafted him where they did. So now it's 2:05 left, 49-yard line. We're again letting the play clock run to 1 second on the play clock. For no reason, we are letting the play clock run to 1 second, and we take a sack. You have to have some urgency to get to the line of scrimmage. Again, I don't know what they're doing, so we cut back to the end of the 2-minute warning. So now we're on the other side of 2-minute warning. It's 2nd and 15. We get rid of the ball. Short pass. I want you to watch. That was obviously not great, but let's pay close attention to the play clock once again. As this thing is winding, 35 seconds before they start showing a couple of replays here. "26 seconds. Caleb wants the play call to come in. He finally gets the play call in. They're still in their huddle with under 20 seconds left on the play clock. The game clock is down to 1:25. These guys are still getting lined up and the game clock is down to 1:21. They're letting the play clock run under 5 seconds. Again. So there's nothing open here once again. And once again, Caleb Williams has to make some magic happen. And there's 1:03, 1:02, 1:01. And the Bears finally call a timeout. The ref waved his hands as if they had called a timeout. They don't call a timeout. So now they're still getting to the line of scrimmage. They have not used a timeout during this span. And Matt, can you pause it here? Okay. We need to reset. Pause the video for a second. We need to reset where we're at here. The Bears had multiple opportunities to do hurry up and get a play call off quickly. They did not do that. They had multiple opportunities to call a timeout to save time. They did not do that. The good news, though, thanks to 2 bailout passes from Caleb Williams, one on 4th and 5 and one on, 3rd and 15 or so. The good news is that they are in 1st and 10 at the 40-yard line. Again, we don't need a touchdown here. Now our thought process is like initially when we had 2:05 and we had the ball around midfield at the 49, we were thinking maybe we could get a touchdown. They've burned all their time. They've moved it 10 yards. In a minute and a half, more or less, they moved the ball 10 yards to the 40-yard line now. We've got to move it another 10 yards, and that's it. If we could get 10 yards, if we could get one first down, we could get to the 32-yard line, even 8 yards. We got a field goal, right? We could kick the field goal and tie it. First things first, we got to get a field goal here. We got to get into field goal range. We can't get greedy to score a touchdown. Just get into field goal range. If you got enough time, once you're at the 25-yard line, 22-yard line, take an end zone shot or two. You got time. What you don't have time to do right now is to do what the Bears are about to do, which I didn't hear many people commenting on this. This is what really irks me. The timeout was stupid, several plays ago where they burned their first timeout. The lack of urgency is unforgivable. The next 3 plays are the most mind-boggling shit you will have ever seen in the NFL, and I cannot remember a time that I have seen as ridiculous and low IQ play calling as what I'm seeing from Thomas Brown on these next 3 plays, and here's why. The top 2 receivers, there were just a couple arrows there. They're running go routes. Pause it. They're running go routes. I want you to pay attention to the top 2 receivers up the field. They got 3 on the left, 1 on the right. The top 2 receivers are running go routes. The tight end, who's aligned, Cole Kmet, I believe, who's about at the 36-yard line, he is going to run and come down to the viewer's right and run a crossing pattern with, I believe it's Rome Odunze, who's at the bottom of the screen here. But pay attention to whether or not Caleb Williams has A hot route option, or B, anybody who is open, who is running one of these 4 routes, who would catch the ball within 10 yards to get the Bears what they need, which is a few yards to kick a field goal. Watch where these guys run to off the screen when Caleb Williams is trying to throw the ball. It's insane. Go ahead and play it. Everybody's off the screen. You look at this. Do you see anybody within 10 yards here? Anybody to catch one of these balls that he might be throwing to? There is nobody here on the screen. Everybody is run down the field. There's a couple guys that are like 11 to 12 yards down the field there that are being covered. So they call a play that has nobody running a route to accomplish what they need, which is to get a few yards to kick a field goal. Second down, we reset. We got 31 seconds left. Go ahead and play it. You can just keep this running now. They show the field goal kicker. We got to get in field goal range. We got to get an opportunity for him to kick a field goal. The Bears, once again, the play clock is running down to 4 seconds, 3 seconds, 2 seconds, 1 second. They're forced to burn a timeout after an incompletion because they did not get the play call in quickly enough. They did not get lined up properly, and they burn another timeout. Another timeout utilized on a dead ball clock. They had the one on the 4th and 5 where they send the punt team out there and the clock is stopped. And now you got one on a 2nd and 10 where you burn another timeout on a stopped clock. You cannot have that. Watch this. The Seahawks look like they're showing pressure. We have the same exact situation here. I'm going to pause it again. Who the hell is in the middle of the field to catch a short pass? Doing what we need to do. Look at all these receivers. They have their backs turned and they're running down the field. Every single one of these guys that they have lined up here is just running go routes down the field to catch a ball that's thrown 20 yards down the field, which we do not need and is a low percentage completion. Thomas Brown is so out of his element, and it makes Caleb Williams look silly because Caleb Williams is the guy who's out on the field, and Thomas Brown is calling dog shit play after dog shit play to not accomplish what they need to do, which is get into field goal range. And Caleb Williams is getting more frustrated. It looks like Caleb Williams is playing poorly, but it's not on Caleb Williams. Here's a 3rd down call. The play clock, once again, is at 2 seconds, 1 second. The defense knows exactly when the snap's coming. And what do we get again? Is there anybody who is near to the sticks or in the middle of the field to catch a pass to set up a field goal attempt? There's nobody there again. Look at where all these guys are. We are talking 20 to 30 yards down the field for every single receiver. You just need a field goal. My guy, you need a field goal. You do not need to be throwing 20 to 30-yard passes down the field. I have no idea what Thomas Brown is doing. Continue to watch this. No idea. You had first down, second down, and third down where you're calling routes where there's not a single soul who is going to catch a pass for you within 10 yards to set you up for what you need, which is a field goal attempt. The lack of awareness and poor situational football here is absolutely mind-boggling to me. So now you have a 4th and 10. And again, we're going to circle this, but what do you think the Seahawks are going to look to do here? The Seahawks, I believe, call this timeout. The Seahawks are going to look to try to pressure Caleb Williams. It's a 4th and 10. I'm kind of previewing and setting up what you're going to see here. But I want you to pay attention to what are the hot options for Caleb Williams if he is under pressure? What is he potentially going to do with the football? Has Thomas Brown given Caleb Williams any answers? He's given him 3 shitty plays so far where there have been no opportunities to accomplish what the team needs to accomplish, which is to get a first down or get close to field goal range. They're still at the 40-yard line. Because of those 3 crappy plays, they have no alternative to go for it, but to go for it on 4th and 10. Pause it right here for a second. Pause it right here. Okay. If the Bears had just gained 5 to 8 yards at a minimum, this would be a field goal attempt with 20 seconds left to tie the game, to send it to overtime, to give them a shot. And win or lose, it goes to overtime, they're feeling a lot better about themselves. But because of the ridiculous play calls from Thomas Brown on first down, second down, and third down, where he's just bombing the thing down the field, he's calling no routes that are within 10 yards to possibly gain a first down. Now you can't go for it on 4th. Now you can't kick the field goal on 4th down because the guy's, I think they said his range was like 55 yards was his season long. And obviously this is a 57-yarder in poor conditions. So now you got to go for it. You see the Seahawks all lined up here. They're bringing all-out pressure. It clearly looks like they're going to be pressuring. Where are the answers for Caleb Williams? Let's play it. Let's see what Thomas Brown has cooked up for the answers for Caleb Williams after a timeout. Slowing down. Look at these receivers. Is there any receiver who's giving him an option? I pause it here. No receivers are even looking back to do anything. There was no hot route option for him at all. We don't have the all-22, so I can't see everything. He's under immediate duress because they're sending all-out pressure. There is no hot route option available for him. All these receivers have their backs turned to him. What in the world is he supposed to do here? Go ahead and play it. So he's throwing a bomb with his back turned. The receivers are covered in man coverage. And the ultimate, it obviously gets intercepted, the game over. And yet I go on to Twitter or X and I see these comments from people who are saying that this is, Caleb Williams has no awareness. Caleb Williams is the worst. Caleb Williams is a bust for the first overall draft pick. You see this kid right here? This kid does not deserve an offense like this. Now, I don't know if Caleb Williams is going to turn into what people hope that he would be or not. But what I do know is this. There is not a single quarterback in the NFL who is a rookie who would be able to survive, let alone thrive, in the situation that Caleb Williams has been put into in Chicago. It should have never happened from the first place. There should have never been a head coach. Matt Eberflus should never have been the head coach for a first overall draft pick. This is the most precious commodity, and we are talking, if you remember 2 years ago, 3 years ago, about the way that everybody was talking about Caleb Williams, about this once-in-a-generation, generational type talent at a quarterback position. You have to set things up for him like you are raising a Messiah, like you are just gonna set every stone the right way. You're gonna pave every path for him so that he can have the easiest road possible to travel for your franchise. And the Chicago Bears did nothing. They kept Matt Eberflus as the coach. They brought Shane Waldron in. JSN is laughing about the fact that Shane Waldron's calling plays for the number 1 overall draft pick because he knew, and most of us knew, that Shane Waldron is not a good offensive coordinator or play caller. And then they go and they fire Shane Waldron and they elevate Thomas Brown, who seems like a lot of people were wrong talking Thomas Brown up, but I knew and other people knew that Thomas Brown was no good in Carolina and he was not going to be good here for Caleb Williams. You got to fire everybody in Chicago. The GM absolutely has been horrendous. He's got to go. You've got to, first and foremost, there is no salary cap for coaching. You got to bring in, go Scrooge McDuck style swimming into the McCaskey's bank vault. They got a big money bin. Go pay up for a great head coach. If you're talking about you want to build a stadium and all this other crap, get a coach and win some games, and people are going to come and people are going to enjoy that. If this is the same old Chicago Bears because you're not getting a good coach, and no, you can't go get a defensive-minded coach. You absolutely cannot get a defensive-minded coach. You better go and get a good offensive mind and pair him with Caleb Williams and let them cook and simmer for the next 3 years to the end of his rookie deal. So you can figure out what you've got, because you will never figure out what you got with Caleb Williams if you have play calling similarly to what he has, talent all around his roster like he has, and most importantly, coaching the way that he has. You're just never going to find out what you've got with Caleb Williams. So I am done. If anybody is critical about Caleb Williams after this season, you know, good luck to you, because I don't think you're right. You can nitpick here and there, and I will as well in the offseason. I'll break down some of the things that he did well and he did poorly. But you have to keep in mind the situation that he's played in is one of the most illogical organizational situations that I can recall seeing for a number 1 overall pick. Most teams stink that have the number 1 overall pick for a reason. This was pathetic. The play calling is pathetic. The way that they're incorporating Caleb Williams is pathetic. Pop up this graph, and then we'll get to some other topics here, Matt. This is Caleb Williams' pass chart. You know, I posted this on X. He has 1 completion more than 7 yards down the field. And what's so mind-boggling to me about this is think about all of those incompletions that he had. All of those incompletions, almost all of them, came at the end of the game, right? Bomb down the field, 20 yards, 25 yards, almost 30 yards down the field. All these deep passes that he's throwing. For what? The rest of the game, everything that they were calling for Caleb Williams was short, was underneath. He wasn't throwing the ball down the field for the first 3 quarters. Everything he was throwing was short, and look at what he was doing underneath. Look at the passes that he was throwing less than 7 yards or less. We had 2 incompletions, probably 15 completions. He was 15 of what looks like to me, just doing simple counting, I think he was 15 of 17. 15 completions on 17 attempts when he's throwing the ball less than 7 yards down the field. And in a situation where you have first down, second down, and third down, all you need to do is get 5 to 7 to 10 yards to kick a field goal to tie the game. What does Thomas Brown do? He calls deep passes after deep passes for no shot at winning this game, for no shot at getting in field goal range and kicking a field goal. When if they called these underneath passes, they probably catch them and they get a first down. And then people are going to have the gall to bitch and moan about Caleb Williams yesterday, because he was 15 of 17 on the underneath stuff that was working successfully for them. Yeah, they weren't putting up a ton of points. Neither were the Seahawks. And yet when the time counted, their play calling is horrendous. Their clock management is horrendous. And none of this is on Caleb Williams. None of that is Caleb Williams' fault. So quit. I didn't even listen to the talk show today. Quit commenting on Caleb Williams' performance from yesterday. It tells me that you didn't really closely watch the last bit of this game. He did not have a great game, but he does not deserve the blame for this game at all, in my opinion. That's all on the coaching. Okay. That's about enough of that. That's all I can take. Let's move on to some of our best bets for week 17. And let's bring in Pam Maldonado, who is joining us live with some takes on some non-related, thankfully. So, welcome to the show. You got to hear my rant. I want to know if I want to ask you about the Chicago Bears. What do you think about the Chicago Bears, briefly? I hope
Take
too much.
Defenders. That's all you can. That's all you can like survive on, right? They only get in, get out, watch a whole bunch of nothing, and get on with your life.
Absolutely. I believe you were on the under, were you not?
Yeah, I took the first half under, and man, I should have put my entire house payment on it.
There you go. Exactly. You are smart. You are smart. Just put the bet in and turn the game off. That's the easiest way to deal with the Chicago Bears in 2024. But we've got more important things to cover here. Pam, you got two games that we're going to be breaking down. And the first one is a game that we're actually going to see tomorrow afternoon. I'm loving these 3 games on Saturday. We also have, from what I heard, the most college football bowl games on in a single day since I want to say like at least 2 decades. So we've got a busy day for college football bowl games on Saturday. Then we also have 3 NFL games, the middle of which is the Denver Broncos traveling to Cincinnati to take on the Bengals. And you've got 2 looks on this game and what I do believe is going to maybe have a little bit of rain. You guys need to pay close attention to the weather and the rain for this weekend because there is some of that in different locales across the country. But Pam, talk to us a little bit about why you like the Denver Broncos catching the 3.5 points as the underdog and what prop you like in this one.
Of course, we all love Joe Burrow as a quarterback. He's fantastic, and watching what he's done this season and still not have a winning record with the Bengals is unreal. But I've also seen the progressions made by the Denver Broncos offense, and I love it. I like watching progression made, and we've seen it from start to where we are now. And I'm just starting to look at. I like the Broncos 3.5. Start there. Broncos plus 3.5 Bengals, and a prop to go along with it because the Bengals right now are looking to me like fool's gold. They're riding a 3-game winning streak, and it's looking all shiny and new. But I am not at all dazzled by their resume. To me, it's just a bit of a cubic zirconia masquerade as a diamond. That's what I am portraying this as. Their recent wins came against much less stellar competition. They faced a Browns team that's on their 3rd-string quarterback, a struggling 3-12 Titans, Cowboy squad with Cooper Rush, which doesn't impress me much. And so it's really a win streak that just is not really telling me that you're returning to form. Bo Nix, on the other hand, I'm talking about progression, and I just love what I'm seeing from Bo Nix. You're seeing a lot of what we saw from him in college and is translating into the NFL stage. Rookie quarterback, but he's polishing his game each and every week. Now, is it 100% foolproof? Absolutely not, because we see one version of him in the first half, kind of flips the script on the second half, but that's what you're going to get from a rookie. You're going to get the ups and downs. You're going to get the swings. So Bo Nix, not entirely dazzling at the moment, but he is steadily improving, and it's bringing a sparkle to the Denver's offense. So if you look at his recent performances, because of how well Nix is doing, now the Broncos have an offense averaging 30 points per game. He himself has had multiple touchdowns in 5 of his last 6 games. He is efficient in the quick game, savvy against red zone coverage. So his mobility is something that we have seen him up in recent weeks. An extra dimension to the Broncos offense, something that he has showcased more in his last 2 outings. And it's not that he's upping his reps on the ground. Instead, he's just being more efficient with it. So it's explosive plays that are happening. And instead, now he's getting chunk plays on the ground. And Cincinnati, it's a paper mache trophy defense. The Bengals, they've been about as sturdy, not really sturdy against the run. They're allowing big games to Rico Dowdle, 131 yards. Jerome Ford had 8.4 yards per carry. And Denver's Jaleel McLaughlin, he's returning to the backfield, so that's an additional weapon. And Cincinnati's ranked 29th in success rate against running backs. So the ground game from Denver, using that committee approach, along with Nix, who now has found a ground game with his legs, that Bengals defense is something that you want to be targeting each and every week. I've been failing to do so, and I'm on the wagon this week. So the betting angle for me is taking Denver plus 3.5. And the prop that I love to correlate with it is Bo Nix rushing prop over 19.5 rushing yards. Has 78 rushing attempts this season. That's six. He's had a resurgence on the ground, 3 explosive runs over his last 2. 3 doesn't sound like a lot, but he had a slump of a handful of games where he had 0. So they implemented it into the game plan. It's been working. I expect it to continue. And as long as they do, against the Bengals defense, he should have success on the ground. And the Bengals have consistently struggled against mobile quarterbacks. So Cincinnati has allowed the most rushing yards to quarterbacks this season, averaging 31 yards per game. Knicks had 23, 25 yards in his last 2 games. I like this trend to continue. So I like the Broncos because of that ground game and that offense. It really opens up the passing playability. And Bo Nix over 19.5 rushing yards against the Bengals.
All right, so 2 props there from Pam on the Saturday afternoon game. And now we go to the Sunday night game. This game got flexed into the Sunday night football slot. The Atlanta Falcons traveling to DC to take on the Washington Commanders. We get to see Michael Penix and the Atlanta Falcons. Obviously, they got the win last week. They're traveling to DC, who upset the Philadelphia Eagles themselves. Right now, the spread has the Washington Commanders laying 4 points against the Atlanta Falcons with a total that is sitting at 47.5. Pam, you have 2 plays and 2 props for us in this game. So why don't you break it on down? The plays and the props are correlated, which is good because they should be. You like the favorite here. Talk a little bit why you like them and the over, and share some of your player props as well.
This is like probably wrong for a million reasons. To like a favorite and then to like the over. It's just something that don't work, and yet here we are. So I love the Commanders -4 against the Falcons, and I also love the over in this at 48 because of Jayden Daniels. And he's not just coming off a great game; he's had a consistency throughout the entire season, facing much tougher competition. No, he's been fantastic for Washington's offense, and he just torched the Eagles with 5 touchdowns in Week 16. That performance was so solid. He looked so sharp. There was I love his decision making. I love his ability to think of things on the fly, make it work, make magic happen where he doesn't. He has a knack for the NFL among quarterbacks that you don't really see from rookie players this year. So I really love him as a quarterback. I love what he's doing. I love the development that we've seen throughout the season. He's got the Commanders' offense ranked 4th in the league. That's 29 points per game. And Atlanta's defense against passing offenses, against mobile quarterbacks especially, it's about as effective as a screen door and submarine. So I'm not going to believe that Atlanta is going to all of a sudden figure it out from one week to the next. They're 22nd in rushing yards allowed to quarterbacks, which is music to Daniel's ears. I think he's going to have a solid game on the ground, and that's also going to open up some of the passing plays from what we've seen, a continuation of last week. On the other side, you have Michael Penix Jr. in a bit of a pressure cooker situation. They're pinning their hopes. Atlanta is pinning their hopes on a rookie who hasn't had any experience this season, and he's only taken his second bite of the NFL apple. The first game, he looked pretty solid. That was at home against who? Against you didn't play anybody. Now you're going up against a Washington defense. He's walking into a bit of a hornet's nest in this situation because Washington's defense is 6% pressure rate. That's 8th best in the league. In his debut, Penix, he wilted under pressure, completing only 2 of 7 passes, 24 yards. What's going to happen when you go up against the defensive front of Washington? I really liked his interception prop, but it was highly juiced, so I had to lay off of that one because anything that's beyond like -125, -130 for player props. But I do like him to throw an interception. And if you look at Atlanta's schedule, also, we've had an entire season of tell us who you are, and they have not played anybody recently, at least. Atlanta has been feasting on cupcakes. They played against Drew Lock, Desmond Ritter in recent weeks. Now you're stepping into a meat grinder against the Commanders, who are still trying to vie for a higher playoff seed. So they're going to come into this a bit more focused. I like the over on 48 because I was considering the Washington team total over because I like them to absolutely dominate this game from start to finish and putting up potentially 35 plus points on their own. So I like the over to hit because I do expect at least for Atlanta to contribute to in some fashion potentially, but Atlanta's Swiss secondary, that's what it is. In the Falcons pass defense, they're 31st in completion percentage allowed, dead last in opponent passing touchdown percentage. 76% of touchdowns in the air. Daniels isn't good. He's really good. I enjoy watching him. He's similar to me with Bo Nix. They're both really solid rookie quarterbacks this season. And he has the second best touchdown rate in the league, and he's been slinging multiple passing scores in 4 straight games. He also has all of the weapons at his disposal. His time in the pocket should not be an issue because Atlanta does not bring the pressure. So the connection that Daniels has with Terry McLaurin, that should be on display. So I really just think here this has the opportunities of being a high scoring affair because Washington playing at home, short field advantages from the sacks they're going to get from Michael Penix, turnover potential here, receptions, shorter fields again. I just see Washington. I have it fixed in my mind that Washington is putting up a bajillion points. So 48 for me just does not. Commanders' offense is potent. Quarterback and Daniels, you're going to feast on Atlanta's poorest defense. Michael Penix and the Falcons, they may put up some garbage points. That's what I see happening. Now, the two players with this, and I mentioned their names, Terry McLaurin over 69.5 receiving yards, because if you look at his history that he's had against Atlanta, it's a pretty solid history to have. He's averaging 84 yards per game in 3 matchups in previous years. And this week, for week 17, he can potentially have another huge game against the Falcons secondary that's been more generous than Santa Claus. Here we are, we just passed Christmas. Atlanta's pass defense, especially on the road, allowing the 5th most passing yards per game. Their pressure rate, 29th in the league. That's going to give McLaurin plenty of time to run some of those deep routes that he loves. And speaking of love, McLaurin's been feeling really hot lately because he just surpassed 1,000 yards for his 5th straight season. So we're not seeing a decline for McLaurin at all, averaging 77 points 77 yards over his last 4 games. I look for players who have consistency, and McLaurin has consistency. Atlanta's been a fantasy wonderland for wide receiver ones or just defense. If you do like fantasy stuff, giving up 9 yards per target, the 3rd highest touchdown rate to those receivers. So I like McLaurin also in an anytime touchdown situation. But his knack for finding the red zone, he has 12 touchdowns this season, second to only Jamar Chase. Yeah, I really like his anytime touchdown. I will also take his over 69.5 receiving yards and correlated with Jayden Daniels over 1.5 passing touchdowns. He's been on fire. Multiple passing touchdowns in 5 of his last 6 games. That connection with Terry McLaurin, who historically torches the Falcons, his dual threat ability really opens up the passing lanes, makes him even more dangerous. The Falcons' defense is a quarterback's dream, dead last in opponent passing touchdown percentage, having allowed 28 touchdown passes this season. That's tied for the most in the NFL. On the road, especially generous. So this is very correlated to all the same. If I think Washington is going to dominate at -4, then they're putting up points, which is why I like over on 48. And Terry McLaurin over 69.5 receiving yards. Jayden Daniels to have another monster game over 1.5 passing touchdowns. Now, if I'm wrong, all of these are 0-4. But if I am right, reason why these should not cash. And that's what I'm banking on.
Yeah, Pam, I'll tell you what. One of the things that I like to do with my bets, you should be, in my opinion, playing a game similar to like you are. You come up with a narrative for how you think the game should be playing out, and then you're tiering your props and your bets to correlate with how you think the game is going to play out. And if you're right, you're probably going to hit a lot of these. If you're wrong, then you're probably going to lose a lot of these. But you don't want to be betting sort of against yourself by hedging some of these things pre-flop, obviously. And it's a good way, if you know that you're going to be right more often than not, 53%, 54%, 55% of your overall bets, then being able to get more ways to be correct on a singular thought process, in my opinion, is a smart way to go about it from a props perspective, especially. I can tell you there's been times where, I'll bet a game over or I'll bet a side, and the player props that I have bet that correlate closely with what I really like, my overall position, end up winning, but the main bet itself ends up losing because the ball bounces a funny way, or there's a interception in the end zone, or various different things could happen that prevent like the overall overarching thing that you're betting to lose, but all the underlying things that you thought would get you there did end up getting you there. You just don't get the final way to get it. So I think it's a smart way to go about it. Obviously, we've got a lot of exposure there for you on this game, but I think that if you feel strongly about it, that's a good way to play it. I personally bet on Terry McLaurin's under last week against the Philadelphia Eagles. Ended up cashing that, but only because he did not have a single catch on that final drive that the Commanders have to go and win the game. I want to say we took him at under like 61 and a half, 62 and a half or something like that. And he was sitting at maybe 58 or 59 yards at that point in time. So I was just sitting there, fingers crossed, that they do not get one more completion to him the rest of the game. And that was against a very good Philadelphia Eagles defense that held him in check in their first matchup as well. That's kind of what I was playing into in the second one. He'll find a lot more openings against the Atlanta Falcons defense for sure.
Yeah, home road splits really matter. And to the point about trying to target some of the player props for the games that you're already focused on, if you look at the record, I have a spreadsheet. If you look at the spreadsheet, all of my player props are exactly correlated to the exact games. So you'll also never see me go opposite. So if I like the Broncos plus 3.5, I'm not going to be doing a Jamar Chase to have a big game receiving prop type of situation, because that confuses my brain. So if I'm thinking Broncos are going to succeed as underdogs, well, which are the ways that are going to help them succeed as underdogs? Back those player props. That's kind of the angles that I look at. And it really helps me narrow things down and be on having confidence towards one side. Because if I can't think of a player prop, then I should probably reconsider that side.
Absolutely. So we've got a couple guys in the chat here. Jimmy Football is asking, what was the Daniels prop again? That was over 1.5 passing touchdowns. We also had Brett, who just live bet a lot of the things that you liked there with the first game. He said he laddered Bo Nix up to 25 plus, hit over 9.5 for his longest run. So he's on board with that, as is Exile, who said Nix's legs have been effective as well. So let's go to these guys, and good luck to you, Pam. Hope that you had a great Christmas and enjoy the new year before we talk again next Friday. Best of luck on these plays. You can follow Pam. That is her handle there at X. Make sure that you guys are following her over there. Make sure that you guys are checking her out over at sharpfootballanalysis.com as well, where she's got more detailed information and analysis for all of these articles, for all of these picks that she likes, written up in article form. Before we get into Joe Gibbs and bringing him on to discuss some of the ref angles that we have to discuss, do want to talk about what we've been doing over at Sharp Football Analysis and a special that we have. We are 13-7 this week on college and NFL betting recommendations, 65% up, 8.2 positions of profit. And we are giving you 80% off everything for the rest of this week. So we have a number of college football bets that we've got lined up for the rest of this week, and we're going to be adding a few more to those plays later today. Be either today or tomorrow, we're going to get a couple more in there that I've been looking to solidify our positions on. So we've got to get a couple more things checked off, and then we're going to get a couple more in there for you guys from a college football bowls perspective. We are 5-2 on college bowls so far this season. We are, let's see, we went 9-0 last year, 16-7 the year before. We're now 40 wins and 10 losses on college football bowls. That is 80%. We're giving you 80% off a weekly subscription. We haven't done a weekly subscription in over a month, 6 weeks maybe. So take advantage. If you've never joined before, you're just checking out the show, take advantage of a weekly subscription. It's about $20 is what it drops it down to for all of our NFL, all of our player props, all of our college football bowl bets, and the college football playoffs, which kick off on Tuesday. Anything that we submit prior to then, you'll get access to that as well. So jump on board, go to sharp.football, and you can get access for a weekly subscription over there. All right. Now we've got a couple of good games to discuss, a couple of key divisional matchups here. We're going to dive into the Cardinals and the Rams. We're also going to dive into the Packers and the Vikings with our ref analyst, Joe Gibbs. Let's roll. You like that one, Joe? The flag at the guy's face. Yeah, it's a good one of our followers here. I don't not his name. I think it's Michael is his last name. But at any rate, there it is again. Definitely throw the flag back at the ref. That's not going to get you a penalty. All right, Joe. I hope you had a Merry Christmas. Let's break down this first game. The Cardinals at the Rams. You've got our old friend Brad Rogers. This game is the late night game on Saturday night. So tomorrow night it's the nightcap at 8:15 Eastern time. It's in Los Angeles. Talk to us a little bit about what we should expect when Brad Rogers is on the call.
Yeah, well, this will be one of the games where the Rams have a true home field advantage this season. Normally, it's the other team's fans that are predominant in SoFi, but the Rams will have 95%. I don't think too many Arizona fans are showing up for this one. So Rodgers himself, as far as divisional home teams in his career, 19-14 against the spread, 58%. In those same divisional matchups, 20-13 to the over. So 60% to the over with Brad Rogers officiating, which is insane for divisional matchups because normally they trend under. As far as the game itself, the matchup between the two teams, the Cardinals had the two starting tackles out, the last that I heard. So that's huge against that Rams defense. That they get after you, that Jared Verse kid. Here's the thing here. Defensive pass interference. The Rams, the number one beneficiary of defensive pass interference penalties this season. And think about this. They had Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp out for a significant part of the season, and they're still number one. So they've been on a tear the last month or so. And you think about the Rams, the way they run their offense, you got all that pre-snap motion. You're a defensive player. You're already on your heels a little bit. Boom, they snap the ball. You got these guys moving here, there, and everywhere. Puka Nacua, he's looking for contact. So he's coming at you. He's looking for you to hit him. All of a sudden, boom, then you get a flag. The Brad Rogers crew, number one for defensive pass interference, number one average yards per defensive pass interference penalty. So that's big right there. The other part, Rogers crew, offensive holding, more on the road team than the home team. And that's been a problem for Arizona this year is offensive holding. The other thing with the Cardinals and the Rams, if you look at their penalties per game in general, they're actually dead even as far as penalties per game, but there's a huge split for Arizona. They're very good at home, but on the road, they're a top 10 penalized team. And like I said, it's going to be a Rams crowd tomorrow night. It's right there in front of them. And historically, they've owned the Cardinals. They got beaten in week 2 when they were decimated with injury. But generally, McVay and the Rams, they've owned Arizona, and I see the same thing this week. I see like a 34-20 type game. Rams win, and they may actually seal the deal this weekend if there's some things go their way with other games, but that remains to be seen. First things first, they've got to win this game, and I think they do in pretty convincing fashion.
So that's a big note from Joe on the pass interference and their ability to draw those penalties, coupled with the fact that the Cardinals are likely to get those penalties called on them, and a crew that really calls these types of penalties quite frequently. Do you think, Joe, that would push you towards believing that the Rams, I normally don't like teasing a 6.5 because it's not past that 7, and you're not getting quite as much value on that. But is there a way that you've already bet this game as a result of Brad Rogers and kind of your handicap on it?
I mean, I don't play teasers, but it's Rams or nothing for me. I don't trust Arizona. I just don't trust them in general. Now they're coming off an overtime game on the East Coast, traveling west. What's the mentality? There's not a lot of leadership on the team. Like I said, McVay and these guys, to me, it's just bet the Rams or I bet nothing. That's it.
So there you go. And Joe Gibbs has been cooking with fish grease on his reeds, is what Exile says. So they love what you've been feeding them, Joe. Let's go to your second game here. The graphic is up on the screen. We've got Carl Cheffers on the call for this one. It's the Packers at the Vikings. This is obviously one of the big games. Frankly, I'm surprised that this wasn't the nightcap game, but I guess they want to try to get some ratings showing on Michael Penix there. We're not sure yet on the status of Christian Watson and his availability for the Green Bay Packers, but this is going to be a battle and a really fun game to watch, in my opinion, when the Packers take on the Vikings. It is the only game at 4:25, and just for you guys who care about these types of things, I know that I do. from a viewing perspective, as you're planning out your day on Sunday, we've got 6 games at 1 p.m. That's it, not 7, but 6. And only 2 games in that 4 p.m. slot. And one of those 2 games is the early kickoff. It's the Dolphins at the Browns. So you're going to be watching Dorian Thompson-Robinson and Tua Tagovailoa play in Cleveland, or you're going to be watching this game. So I think 95% of the country is probably going to be watching the Green Bay Packers and the Minnesota Vikings. So Joe, tell us what we can expect in this one from Carl Cheffers.
Yeah, we've got our old friend Carl Sheffers back at the helm here. So he's a good home field advantage referee in general, but when you isolate just divisional matchups, he actually increases a little bit as far as the advantage to the home team. This goes back to 2016. Divisional home teams, 30, 18, and 1 against the spread with Sheffers, so 62%. This game is basically a pick 'em, so that the spread doesn't really matter too much. I went through this last week with the Chiefs-Texans game. The Sheffers crew, less of an emphasis on offensive holding, false start, but more of an emphasis on the defensive holding, defensive pass interference penalties. The teams themselves, I mean, obviously it means a lot to Minnesota. The game really doesn't mean that much for Green Bay. I mean, they're kind of locked into that wild card. It's whether they want the 5 or 6 seed, but I don't know. As far as the penalty, perspective itself, the Vikings, the number one beneficiary of automatic first downs via penalty. That means any sort of penalty, but primarily it's the defensive pass interference, illegal contact, defensive holding. That's really what generates this. So they're number one in that. But on third down, the key down, the money down, the Green Bay Packers, the number one beneficiary of automatic first downs via penalty. So you got 2 very good offenses who are adept at getting these big chunk plays, getting the penalties, getting the free yardage. So you got that going on right there. And these NFC North games, if you look this season, aside from the lines at the Packers, which was in pouring rain, and Jordan Love had some ankle issues, these have been really high-scoring games this season because the coaches know, like 17 points, 20 points, it's not going to get it done. You got to score points, and you got to score, 27, 30, 33 points. And the side itself, you can toss a coin. You can make an argument either way for the Vikings or the Packers, and I wouldn't disagree with you either way. But I do think it's going to be a higher scoring game, 33-30, 30-27 type contest. I like the over in this one. Sheffers' crew should do enough to help these teams along. And you got 2 potent offenses that, they're going to have the advantage. And like I said, the coaches are going to game plan, in my opinion, to get into that high 20s, maybe low 30 point range, because that's what they're going to need to win.
Yeah, it does seem like I'm waiting to see what we've got out of Christian Watson here. But I certainly can't argue with you there. The total has ticked up a little bit. It was 48 at some spots, gone up to 48 and a half. It opened at some places at 49 though, so it came down a little bit in that regard. Remind me again, what was Carl Cheffers' record from a totals perspective?
Oh, off the top of my head, I think it's it's either 8 and 6. It's slightly the over.
Okay.
I don't have it on the top of my head right now.
Right. So slightly to the over, slightly to the Minnesota Vikings here based upon some of his prior tendencies. So that's how Joe is looking in the only game at 425, a massively important game for the NFC North, also for the number 1 overall seed, because the Detroit Lions, who are also 13-2, same as the Minnesota Vikings, do not play until Monday Night Football. And so the Minnesota Vikings don't know what's going to happen there. They've got to play to win this game to try to hopefully secure themselves a shot at the number 1 overall seed in the NFC. And of course, that would mean that they will get the championship of the NFC North as well there. So a big game in store for us. And Joe got some great ref angles. As a reminder, make sure that you guys are following Joe on X at NFL Ref Stats 1. There's his Twitter handle right there, as well as checking out his article every single week over at sharpfootballanalysis.com. All right, with that said, Joe, thank you very much. Hope that you had a great Christmas and are looking forward to the new year. All right, anybody in the chat have anything before we move along here? The one thing that So we had a little bit of I'll just be pretty clear with you guys here. We had a little scheduling sequence change with moving past some of our college stuff because Ryan couldn't make it to talk college today. We were initially thinking that we were going to hit some college. And as a result of kind of juggling some things, the show is ending earlier than it normally does, A, but B, I have yet to 100% finalize my longest props. And I know that's a disappointment, but what I will tell you is that at 2 p.m. Eastern, which is in exactly 1 hour, I will reply to, give me an extra 30 minutes. Let's do 2:30 Eastern time. Go to YouTube and I will post both of the recommendations as the first comment. So exactly at 2:30 Eastern time, that's in 1 hour and 28 minutes from now. I'm only saying that because I'm trying to produce the best record. I've got about 6 different ones that I like right now. I could easily just pick 2 and give them to you. But we are 22-9 on the season. We went 2-0 last week. The 71%, 22-9. We don't get to 22-9 by me just picking 2 of my top 6 and just giving them to you. I'm specifically trying to isolate the very best ones that I like the absolute most for you guys. And I'm trying to, you could tell, we care a lot about the show, about us giving you some good information on the show. I want to get you the very best that I can get. That does not mean that they're going to win. The track record has been solid. Our overall props have been great this year. So I feel pretty good about all of these that I've selected, but there's some weather things that I want to just double check on, as well as some matchup related things that I haven't had enough time to spend digging into them. So normally I'm giving these to you around 1:30-ish. But because we're going to end the show earlier and because I haven't had enough time to prep, we're going to give them to you at 2:30. So apologies in advance. Check the YouTube comments. I'll have a response to this at 2:30 p.m. Eastern on the button. You have my word on that. And we will get you the 2 longest props that I like the most that will count towards our 22-9 record. Looking to improve that if possible before we conclude the regular season. I never really anticipated tracking these the way that we have and trying to give you guys the best specific best bets like this. Back in July, we weren't planning on doing this, but here we are, and I want to try to keep this run going for you guys. So, all right. That being said, okay, Jason wants a little bit of EDSR talk, so we'll hit you up with EDSR talk. Exile has a nice comment. Back-to-back weeks for Minnesota versus a play-action sensitive defense. Yes, let me pull that out here for the Green Bay Packers. The Green Bay Packers have been pretty sensitive to play action, and I've just been so impressed. I mentioned this on my other show earlier this week, but it's really hard not to think that Kevin O'Connell should not be Coach of the Year with what he has done right now. 2-0 record, 2-0, a 13-2 record with the Minnesota Vikings in contention for the first overall seed with Sam Darnold as his quarterback. And it's not that they're hiding Sam Darnold and getting the offense to work around him. So like so many other coaches do when they have a step down type quarterback, they are a pass first offense and they are making it work with Sam Darnold. They are making Sam Darnold into a better player than he was without Kevin O'Connell. And the team is having enough unified success around him thanks to a lot of the things that Kevin O'Connell is doing. So truly remarkable what KOC has done there in Minnesota. I definitely would feel very comfortable giving him Coach of the Year. All right. Let's see, EDSR edges. So EDSR, early down success rate, it's a metric that a phrase that I coined probably 15 years ago at this point. was on the cutting edge of removing third downs and studying early down efficiency. When there weren't very many people who focused on early downs, this was back in the day when I came up with this metric, before a lot of people started, certainly in the private sector, but even in from like the teams and whatnot, it was just statistics. There was no way to filter out third downs. Nobody cared about just what you did on first and second down. Everybody just looked at, how many yards per game does this team average from, rushing? How many yards per game do they give up rushing? They would not look at isolating early down efficiency. So early down success is your ability to bypass third downs, your ability to skip third downs, convert first downs on first and second down. It's a phrase that I came up with probably about 15 years ago. Okay, big edge to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. No surprise there. They're a 8-point favorite right now against the Carolina Panthers. They have a massive edge in early down success, both on offense and defense. Another team with a massive edge are the Philadelphia Eagles. A lot of question marks, though, about Jalen Hurts. I think that there was a report today that looked like he was not going to play. Of course, we know CeeDee Lamb is out as well the last 2 weeks of the season. So that hurts the passing attack of the Dallas Cowboys even further. A big edge for the LA Chargers, solely though, not because of offense. In fact, we're going to watch this game at 1 o'clock tomorrow. The Chargers and the Patriots on the season, the number 31 and number 32 offenses on early downs at bypassing third downs. These teams constantly play themselves into third downs on offense. These are the worst two offenses in the NFL at that. The reason is because the Chargers defense has been, at least on the season, they're trending worse naturally, but on the season, they have been the best defense at forcing teams into third downs. And the Patriots have been the worst defense at forcing teams into third downs. So you've got the 31st and 32nd ranked offenses, and you've got the best defense in the Chargers versus the worst defense in the Patriots. And so that's why early down has identified an edge. It's not because the Chargers offense is great at avoiding third downs. No, it's because their defense had been the best and the Patriots defense has been the worst. Let's see. Let's get another one here for you. Okay, the last one that I'll share is, and so I'm actually, the line has dropped down to 4. Oh, it took some Chargers money. It looks like maybe 4 was the bottom point. It was 5.5, dropped to 5, dropped to 4.5, dropped to 4. Now it's back to 4.5. So it must have taken a little bit of Chargers money. That line was getting pretty low there with people betting on the Patriots, dropping that number a little bit lower. Okay, the last one that I will share with you here is actually there's the next closest is not really super strong, but it's actually the Denver Broncos. And it's not because of their offense, it's because of their defense once again. Their defense has been pretty good at forcing teams into third downs. They're going on the road. Pam likes the Denver Broncos. They're catching 3 points. An underdog having an early down advantage here definitely is noteworthy. Their offense is slightly worse on early downs. I'm interested to see what Sean Payton has cooked up because Bo Nix did not look very good whatsoever. The Cincinnati Bengals defense is not good. But I still have some level of respect for the defensive coordinator. So it'll be interesting to see what Big Lou has cooked up for Sean Payton and the Bo Nix-led Broncos offense. Exciting to see how that game goes in the afternoon game. It's probably the game I'm looking forward to the most tomorrow at this point in time. I'm sure once I get some action down on some more of these games, those will be the games that I'm looking forward to more, is what I have my action on. But right now, without any action on the games on Saturday, from a viewing perspective, from a fan perspective, that Broncos at Bengals game is the one I'm looking forward to the most. Both teams are still alive for the postseason, and I think both teams it's hard to figure out exactly what we're going to get out of them, so it makes the outcome a little bit more erratic and exciting, in my opinion. Okay, Jimmy says, I'm definitely resubscribing next football season. Brilliant work by the whole team. I've mentioned this before. I first of all, I really appreciate that, Jimmy. We do put a lot of work into everything that we do. It's one of the things I don't talk enough about, but behind the scenes, Rich and I, when we do talk about this type of thing, it's one of the reasons, and if you are a subscriber to the website, you know that we produce some of the earliest week previews, game previews, written game previews on the market. Monday Night Football ends Monday night, and by Tuesday at around noonish, we start publishing detailed, highly detailed game previews for what you can expect for every single player that is relevant on the offensive side of the ball and what their matchup is with the opposing defense. And we start doing that on Tuesday and are done by Wednesday around lunchtime. And we break down every single game. And Rich does a brilliant job of doing that and putting those games together. And it's one of the reasons Rich and I work so well together is because we're both very analytical, very detail focused, and we're both grinders. We work our tail off. And that's another thing that was great when Ray became available, and we brought Ray into the mix as well, is because Ray's the same type of way. He's the editor. He also helps write some things for the site, public facing, and we all work really well together, and we all have the same type of analytical, detail-oriented, stat-driven way that we approach games. And it's paid off, obviously, on the season. We are having our best and most profitable season that we've ever had. If you got it, I will say, if you got in the summer, you're up a lot more than if you got in, let's say, in November. But it has been a very profitable season, our most profitable that we've had on record. And so I'm hope that you're learning as well, Jimmy, in addition to winning, but I hope that you're learning from some of the things and it's making you a smarter, better moving forward on some of the things that you do on your own, because we'd be foolish to think that if you subscribe to a service like ours and you're getting all of our write-ups and getting all of our analysis and getting all of our information in addition to some of our picks and recommendations, that the only things that you're betting in the NFL is the stuff we're giving you. Certainly, you're going to be betting a lot of your own things. Certainly, there's games that we're not on. There's Monday night games that we don't have a lot of action on, or Thursday night games, what have you, that you're still trying to get down on. And hopefully, the information that we are sharing in our write-ups, as well as the things that we've talked about in our analysis in prior weeks, will help you formulate a better thought about the game and a way to approach it so that you have a better shot at making money on your own bets as well. So we don't just try to give you bet this, bet that, bet this, and we're done. We do try to tell you why a lot of times when I'm sharing my longest bets, or when we're doing some of the write-ups that I give, or all of the write-ups that we do on the game previews from Rich. Hopefully that helps you guys in your thought process for your own bets and is making you a better sports bettor as well. All right, I got to get back to focusing on these longest bets so I can have them to you in 1 hour and 16 minutes from now. So again, check the comments on YouTube, Sharp Football Analysis Show. And we will see you guys at 2:30 with the longest bets. I'll give you two of them, 22-9 on the season. And then we will be back on Tuesday. We'll give you some bets to look forward to for the college football playoffs from Ryan. We'll also do a little quick recap of Week 17, early Week 18 preview. Week 18, just as a forewarning, gets very messy because we're going to have scenarios laid out, and we're going to have a detailed article up on Sharp Football Analysis that Ray Summerlin is already working on about different playoff scenarios and what teams' motivations are. We're going to be working on that and keeping that updated throughout the week. So that's a must-read article that you're going to want to refresh on a daily basis that we're going to publish at the beginning of next week. And in addition, there's just players that might get rested, things that come up from coaches' press conferences or reading the tea leaves that we're not going to know a whole lot on Tuesday, but we're going to have a lot more clear picture by the time our Friday show comes next week. So Week 18 is always a very, very tricky week from a betting perspective. So be careful there from a bankroll perspective. Save enough for the postseason where we've done really well throughout the years. With that said, Thanks for everybody joining. Hope that you guys had a great Christmas. Hope that you guys are staying safe. Enjoy all the football. A lot of great games today, tomorrow, and then Sunday. And we will see you next Tuesday.
Go,